Yeah, we did let people ask some questions throughout each slide, but maybe you have some questions that were nothing to do with any of these slides. Maybe you have some concerns about Pubky, some things you don't understand, some things that maybe you want to understand a little bit better in comparing it to other systems. Either way, general questions, technical questions, any type of feedback, now's the time.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just talk for the rest of the session until other people have questions. But yeah, basically all of it. I have questions about all of it, but I really like all of it. Firstly, I guess honestly, do you know of anyone doing anything like any of it? Like actually hashtag competitors to Pubkey, the ecosystem?
I mean, there are alternatives for every aspect of our system.
Right.
The one that whether there's anyone trying to do the entire system, I don't think so. In other words, that like what I showed you and trying to make a whole kind of loop
Yeah.
out of it, I don't think so. And then probably the rarest part of the system. I mean, certainly nobody's doing Picard. Yeah, people have implemented it literally in other things, but I don't know of alternatives there. There's not like a Picard on Hyperswarm. Actually, we tried to put it there and they rejected it.
Right.
And so
I'm not too
I
familiar
don't.
with like Hyperswarm or hole punching, but I guess I'm gonna come to learn about it. You said you guys are using it as a fallback, right? Pretty much exclusively as a fallback, or
We're not using hole punching in Pubkey stuff. The hole
right?
punching
And
stuff.
not at all at this point. Yeah, it was
Yeah, not
just
not at
theoretical.
all.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Yeah. So, well, I had questions about home servers, and generally, I guess it kind of makes sense if they're gonna transition with Frankie. But so the reason I was interested in Pubkey's app, right, is because I do want to, like, I want to modify it in the sense that it doesn't have communities, and what I want is the Reddit experience with like where anybody can host their own collection of communities, right, where I can appoint like 5 of my users to be creators of communities, and those are the only people who have like the ability to create one, right? And they become like operators in that sense because they're an extension of my server, but they choose to publish and have their users publish there, right? It kind of, I think with y'all's system, it allows for like a really open landscape in that regard. Like when you go with Reddit, or I guess it kind of transitions from like a centralized Reddit to the decentralized, whether it's like the federated universe or
It depends on what
Limmy.
you're going for, though, because you're right in the sense that because of the tagging and all of the contextual power you can wield, it's great for discovering communities, having meta communities, having communities that transcend multiple different contexts. There's all kinds of things you can do with the coordination aspect. But when it
Yeah.
comes to the permissioning aspect, you have a lot more limits in peer to peer. I was just reading, a critique of the MLS chat system today from the Simplex guy, and the challenges around doing permissioning in a peer-to-peer way are significant. And managing a group, managing a community, what you do when somebody leaves, you have to update the key, how you manage these things, and then the practicality of whether it's even worth it is another issue. And
Right.
then most
I
of the
think I
time,
was
people just end up
reading
faking
about
these
that.
features. Like we could add these features in a fake way. Like we could say, okay,
Sure.
on only in Pubkey app, this thread, when if John has been blocked from this thread, only Pubkey app will not show that John has replied in this thread. We could do things like that, but these are very centralized user experiences.
Sure. I guess is that like if you were to take 2 instances of Pubkey and sync posts between them, or were you describing like a different model in that way?
Well, I'm just trying to lay out the framework of what you have to work with. In other words, if you're interested in communities, what I would start with is what you have instead of what you wish you had. And so I would say, okay, I have tags and I have home servers and I have an indexer, and so I can prepare this data in various ways. And so you don't need pubkey.app to make your app. You could make your own app. You could say this is, a forum key, or red key. And in this app, when we display the data, we display it like a forum, and you could treat each tag as a forum, for example. Like say the Bitcoin tag is slash
Right.
Bitcoin in Reddit, right?
So,
And
okay,
so
hang on. So I guess that's part of it that I don't understand still. You did mention it earlier when I asked you to explain it, but the part where the tags are actually stored as data on home servers threw me for a loop. I didn't realize that was how this worked at all. So in my head, I still don't really get how that comes together. So if
well,
I'm
that's what
storing like,
remember, you have to suspend the part of having moderation control. What I'm describing is an open system, and so you wouldn't be able to, so when I say that the Bitcoin tag can behave just as if it were slash Bitcoin, I'm not saying that somebody would be a moderator of that tag. I'm just saying that you could organize everything around that tag. You could view all of the posts that were related to that tag, all of the forums that were underneath that tag, and you could create community experiences this way. But the moderation of communities is a separate topic.
right. Well, I'm going for a central moderation structure. In this, like the way you're deploying it is good, but when I talk about communities, I'm referring to like this instance of pubkey.app specifically caters
Like
to
you mean
whatever
like a
community
federated
that it
instance,
allows.
like Mastodon?
Well, that's sort of where I'm coming from, but not. I don't think in the way that they operate is exactly what I'm going for.
I guess what I could
Um,
say is what you want could be built in Pubkey, and because Pubkey is just the web, it's not
yeah,
very limiting system. It works much like how the web works, so you could build all that, but to do it the way that you would want it, to have it sort of be like a Pubkey version of Mastodon, where there was a owner of the paradigm and controlling things, you would end up needing to run a lot of stuff. Or probably need to run the whole stack, and you would probably need to heavily customize the Pubkey app or make your own.
yeah, that's about where I'm at.
But like I
Okay.
said, there's a lot you can do before that stage. You don't have to go that hard and go that far with it. You can just say, okay, let me try to create the user experience through the UI with the primitives that Pubkey does provide, and see how far that gets me. Because I don't know, the thing something you have to
Yeah,
learn
I mean,
about when you're working with Pubkey is that you have to think inversely. It's not about blocking people. It's about it's about filtering them out. So the idea with Pubkey is you can't stop people from doing things, but you can stop yourself from having to look at things you don't want to see. And you have a lot of power to decide and figure out which things you do or don't want to see. And so your community app could still be a community app that works through filters instead of through blocking, you know?
right. Mhm.
I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know if that fits what you're going for. Are there any other questions or topics?
I got a question regarding PKDNS. So have you tried to get this into OpenWRT? Because that would be very cool. So basically, the nicest place for this to be would be on your home router. So you would automatically get it. No, you wouldn't have to have it integrated in the browser or anything. You would just get it automatically on every device. And OpenWRT is used by many router manufacturers as a baseline. So if you have it in there, then some people from China will pick it up, and next thing you know, it is on millions of devices. So that might be a nice idea. And then the other thing, when will I be able to run a home server myself? Because this is not critical very much, but currently Pubkey for me is just a website. So for me, as long as you can't run your own home server, it is interesting, but it is not that interesting. So running a home server itself, like in a
Well,
that
I
would
have
be
to
the
defend that
yeah,
because you're
I
right.
guess
Pubkey.app is just a website, right? But what it does demonstrate is, despite it being just a website, you still have the key and you still are the controller of where the data in that website is defined. And so, yes, you're right. Obviously, if you saw the roadmap items I mentioned, a lot of it is about prioritizing the concept of decentralization and enabling that. So as far as when you can run your own home server is secondary actually to when Pubky app will actually look at other home servers, and when Pubky Nexus will actually look at other home servers too. So we're setting up those first, and then meanwhile Sev and probably Kevin or whoever else we hire soon is going to continue working on making the home server something that's not just something you would only run if you were running Pubky app. Yeah, so there's mirroring features upcoming, things like this. So once we get to those stages, we'll start trying to ship even applications for Umbral, like I mentioned. But when? Probably October, November. That's the current. We're basically trying to milestone everything at the end of October because that's when we have the Plan B conference. Granted, our milestones are more internal this time because we're not going to like, hey, we finished rewriting Pubky app. Like we're not going to announce that on stage. And same thing for a lot of this busy work that we have to do. So I don't know if Seb wants to give you a more specific answer, or if somebody else wants to say, hey, you can run your own home server, but go ahead.
I think Sev had to dash off, and
Okay. I didn't know he's not here.
Pastor Gringo expressed an invite to help you out with setting up your own home server, Rudiger. So feel free.
Yeah,
to reach
that's actually a good example. I guess good spectrum of it is everybody on our team will tell anybody asking that it's too early to try to run your own home server. But if a guy comes along and is motivated and wants to run his own home server, he runs it. And so like Vincent or Pasta Gringo here, he worked with Chris to get a Docker and get the whole stack running and running Nexus, I think, and everything too. So it can be done, but doing it isn't that relevant if, again, our app isn't reading from other home servers or inject servers either. So it's a combination of these kind of 3 or 4 things we have to finish over the next few months.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else have questions? Oh wait, you had a 2-part there. I skipped your first part, which was you mentioned that it would be cool generally to get business development for PKDNS and getting it inside of applications. That is, and also the topic of formal specifications and how that can help, that kind of thing. As you know, and I mentioned to you, like we don't put a lot of work into formal specking and trying to get like stuff in W3C, etc. Like we have found that to be a trap for us in the past, so we've just avoided it. I have nothing against it. It would be awesome, and we would facilitate and help anyone wanting to do any part of our stack as a formal spec. But it's probably not going to be us initiating that anytime soon because we just have so much other stuff to work on. However, we do have early stages of planning for business development around Picard and PKDNS, et cetera, specifically, trying to list out and prioritize opportunities like the one you mentioned. So whether or not, we should, where things lay in priority as far as forking a browser, asking a browser to support it, asking some other application to support it. Maybe there's something else like IRO that should be looking at PKDNS and Picard. And so we're researching and making a list and making a plan for business development for that aspect of the stack, but it hasn't begun yet, and we're still gathering it. Any other questions?